Is it okay to tell a creator, I don't like your book? I think it sucked. It's one of the worst things I've ever read. I hate it. Well, yeah, I mean, is it okay in the sense that you all have freedom of speech? You can say whatever you want, but is it nice? Is it productive? That's a whole different topic. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. Beautiful outdoor weather, social distancing, doing the thing. Look, so this is a topic that comes up every now and then. And before I get into it, I did want to add, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't subscribed yet, would love it if you would. Subscriptions are, there's some reason why I'm doing this. It's like Pokemon. You got to collect them all. I'm trying to collect all the people on the internet. That's what's going on. Your subscriptions really help with that process. So if you haven't yet, click that button, and it's good for something. And then, you get my videos pestering you in your inbox all the time, which sounds delightful, right? Anyway, critique is a funny thing because people often take it to extremes. They say, people should be allowed to give critique. And the answer is yes, of course you're allowed. You should be allowed, and you are allowed, and absolutely you should be free to give critique. You like something, you don't like it, you love it, you hate it, whatever. You are welcome to express your opinion, and you should express your opinion by all means. Then the other part to that is, well, with social media, we can now connect directly to creators, and we can tell these things to their face virtually. And so we can, say, tag Tom King and say, your Batman issue sucks, you suck, and you're a terrible writer. So first off, can you do this? Yes. Yes, you absolutely can. The technology and the ability is there for you to do that. Should you do it? That's a much harder question. It's not a polite thing to do, and I think you could certainly look at it this way. And by the way, a lot of people like to pick on this topic and say things like, well, I'd always take feedback from my customers if somebody ever told me something. And those people are blocking lots and lots of people. So don't live the words you say. I'm just saying, by and large, I've heard a lot of people make this claim of the customer is always right. You should listen to your consumers. Yeah, sure, you should. I agree entirely. You should listen to your consumers, but that means whether you're a critic or the creator, you kind of you should live by the same rules. What's that other video I did? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's like it has to work both ways. Yeah, it should work both ways. But I look at it this way. If you're at a convention and there sitting at the table is Jim Steranko, would you feel comfortable going up to him and say, Jim, I hate you. Your work is just the worst. It's terrible. I tried to enjoy this comic and I couldn't because it was so freaking awful. Would you do that staring the guy in the face, eyes to eyes? Would you do that? Some people would. Some people have. It's definitely, it's rare, but people do this from time to time. Is it a nice thing to do? No, you come across like a jerk more than somebody giving critique. And I think you should have the self-awareness to realize that you're not necessarily coming across as a super clever critic or a consumer just expressing their opinion. You're coming across like somebody who wants to pick a fight. But most people would look at that situation and go, you know what? In person, I would be a little bit more diplomatic. I would not just tell somebody right to their face that they suck and that I hate them. And most people live by those rules, including people who are really loud and obnoxious on the internet. Is like, I'd have no problem walking up to Tom King at a convention and saying, I hate you, you SJW. People say that, but they actually wouldn't do it. And how do we know that they wouldn't do it? Well, lots of people disliked Tom King's run on Batman. I think more people, who knows, without being able to pull every single reader, we can't say for sure who liked it and who disliked it, but there was a hearty group of people who disliked it. And yet, Tom King kept going to conventions, and yes, even though there was that bodyguard stunt that was pulled after the stupid wedding fiasco, people were not walking up to Tom King all day long and telling him he sucked. It didn't happen. There's been lots of creators. I mean, Rob Liefeld still shows his face at conventions, and people do not walk up there and go, you can't draw feet, Rob. People don't do that. Or he would stop coming to conventions, or there would be security. Who knows? These things don't happen in real life. Yes, you get occasional fans that will do it, but it's occasional, very, very rarely. So if you feel comfortable saying something in real life, then by all means, treat social media as if you were in real life and you were firing away with your criticism, and go nuts. But a lot of people don't. They say things on social media. I know, big shocker, that they wouldn't say in real life. And so, therefore, it's a little bit disingenuous to say, "Oh, I feel free running my mouth whenever I want. I feel free giving criticism directly to creators all the time on social media." But then it's like, well, but in person, I mean, that would be rude in person. No, it's rude either way. On the other side, so I'll now be Mr. Down the middle again. On the other side, creators do need to lighten up a bit. And I get it's hard on social media. People are with no boundaries saying things. But I have watched creators go ballistic over even innocuous statements like, hey, Walter Simonson, I'm using his as an example. Well, Simonson has never done this to my knowledge. Hey, Walter Simonson, your work on X Factor was really good. But then when you later did those issues of the Avengers, they were super crappy. It's like you got lousy. Or I'll use an even real life example. John Romita Jr. People, and including me, I like his work on Uncanny X-Men from back in the day more than his current work. I just liked his style more back then. So if I go to and I meet John Romita Jr. in person, I would say, I really dig your older stuff more than your newer stuff. It's probably how I would say it. Or, hey, you evolved your style. I'm not as fond of it as I am your older work. I would feel comfortable saying that. I don't think I'm being a jerk. I think I'm expressing something truthful. I'm not going like, hey, you used to be such a great drawer and now you suck ass. Do you see the difference between the two? There's a little difference. I've watched creators go nuts saying, how dare you? And just start screaming at people. I very famously at conventions, I know I watched Matt Fraction lose it on somebody who had made a similar kind of comment about earlier work and later work. This has happened in the past. And on social media, you do see creators who are unable to handle even very innocuous criticism. In fact, I think a lot of the stuff that got people all, up in arms came from criticism that was really pretty benign and I think fair. I think it is fair for fans to express liking of one thing over the other. And I think creators need to lighten up a little bit. I do think that does fall into the realm of, hey, if somebody's coming up and they're being polite about it, they're not, they're being factual, they're not being a jerk. A creator should learn to take that criticism. I think creators should learn to figure out how, these comments can impact or improve their work. I think it's free information and they're crazy if they don't listen to it. And I think a lot of these statements are completely fair game. Now, kind of this more gray area is if you dislike a comic, let's say you picked up the newest issue of Batman, it's written by Tom King, you hated it all. Why do you feel compelled to go onto social media and at Tom King and say, I hated your comic is terrible? Why seek somebody out to deliver that negative criticism? It's not like you are on a blog, you've written a review, or you're just on your own timeline saying, I read the newest issue of Tom King and I really hated it. I thought that, his version of the character is just terrible. I think you write that in a tweet, fine. You post some examples, fine. I've done many threads where I will say, what are they doing here? I remember there's a Captain America issue that Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote, and I don't remember the artist, but there was panels that were just weird. And Captain America is like going out just murdering people, and it's like, it was very off-putting. So I posted a thread. I posted the captions, and I said, "This is weird. I don't think this is a good way to write Cap." And here I see some issues here. I did some analysis of it. Wasn't trying to be cruel. I didn't say somebody should fire Ta-Nehisi Coates immediately and run him out of the country, or how did this person ever get to live with being such a terrible communicator? Any of this kind of stuff. Just pretty factual. I didn't tag the creators into the thread because, if I'm critiquing it, I figure they'll find it or they won't. And, they'll be upset or they won't. That's not my business. They can, hopefully, if I'm not being cruel, people should take it in the spirit of which were intended, which is honest, not mean. But if you start to tag if you're going to rip on something and you start to tag in the creators, like I hate this issue of Ghost Rider, I hate this issue of Venom, Donnie Cates, at Donnie Cates, you suck Donnie Cates, then you're kind of encouraging a fight. It's like you're definitely leaning into it a little bit. On the other hand, if you take some time to really do an analysis, say, here's something that worked, here's something that didn't work, here's why I like this arc and this newer arc is not doing it for me, and you want to tag in the creators because you're trying to identify who did it, I don't think that's a sin. A lot of creators say, if you're going to criticize anything I do, you should never tag me into it. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I think that's, the people who say that and need that are people who probably shouldn't be on social media in general. You're saying I can't handle any kind of negative criticism. I have found, and by and large, creators, Brian Edward Hill is a master at this. You certainly can thank people from their critique, or you can ignore it. You have a way of filtering, depending if it's, hey, here's somebody who didn't like my book. Oh, sorry you didn't like it. Try again next time. Or maybe just ignore. Versus somebody that's really trying to take the piss out of you in a cruel way. And I think it's not hard to tell the difference. That's the thing about all this that kind of makes me nuts, is everybody kind of pretends that critique is this very nebulous thing, and I like, who is us to say whether it's legitimate critique or trolling, or I can't possibly tell. And yet, if the comment is like, Tom King's Batman deconstructed Batman to the point that it tore him down to a level where the journey back up was no longer interesting, and it took fundamentals away. It made the character more one-dimensional. The art was kind of, with different story arcs, changed too much. So it just the whole flavor of it wound up being not impactful. Okay, versus Tom King is a cuck and doesn't know how to be with a woman and can't write Batman correctly because he's a depressed a-hole. All right, so if I go up comment A and comment B, I think everyone who listened to this can probably, ascertain which one is, attempting to kind of be thoughtful about the criticism and which one is just being a prick, right? I mean, surely we can all tell the difference. And I think for everyone out there listening, I think, make your comments positive, negative. By the way, I'm only talking about the negative stuff. I think the same thing is true. I mean, nothing disgusts me more than people go, oh my God, OMG, I love Tom King. Everything he writes is the best. Absolutely. I get his issues and I just read it 18 times all in one sitting because I can't get it. Those people sound insane. Like, there's such a thing as overly positive insanity as well. And I get that that's more palatable for some people to both read and absorb, but it's still crazy. I mean, I think the over-the-top praise is as crazy as the over-the-top negativity, in my mind anyway. It's just how I view it. But there you go. What do you think? Criticism. Should you ever tell a creator if you don't like something? Should you be fair about it? Does this difference matter to you? What do you think? Leave me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the protocol. There's not a single one answer for anyone, but on the other hand, I think people think way too hard about this and they need to. I think the answers are pretty obvious, but that's just me. Leave a comment below. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.